There we go. So do you follow Promo Bricks or any like these Lego leakers out there?
Let me tell you. I follow so many different Lego leakers out there. There's Lego Fulcrum. There's I forgot all of them now, but I know there's Lego Fulcrum. But I do follow. I dabble. We know this. I got a history. So
You have a very good history.
Unfortunately.
With Lego. So have you seen the leak that came out today about the 50th anniversary Disney Castle set?
I did, and I know there's a big hullabaloo over it.
So, because I know I sent you a text, like I texted you like maybe like a week or so ago about it. And you hadn't heard about it then.
No, I hadn't.
So we saw images today, some leaked images of that set. So what hullabaloo have you heard regarding that? And then I'll give my opinions on it.
Well, I know there's I know a lot of people are actually excited about it because they like the scale of it. It's Cinderella Castle, which I know a lot of people know. We got a very big Lego set of that a couple years back now.
Yeah. Which I normally have on set, but I didn't put that on today, and I know you have it as well.
You're slipping.
I know.
But so they came out with that set. They came out with the I know they also came out with the train station. Yes. They should have come out with more. Should have come out with the Haunted Mansion. That's a story for another day. But yes, so this is actually a special set for the 50th, which is sort of like a mid-scale version of the castle. It's much smaller. It's a miniature of a miniature, but it also does come with Mickey. So a lot of people are actually excited about it because it's a cool scale. Yeah. A lot of people that I follow, but some people have commented on how different Mickey looks, which I think, now correct me if I'm wrong, this is supposed to be reminiscent of his look in the 70s when the park opened.
I believe so, because
that's what I got out of it.
Yeah, and I think that's spot on because he has eyebrows in this in the minifigure from the castle. He doesn't have that, and actually his modern minifigure doesn't have eyebrows either. I think that is, and his pupils and whites of his eyes are different size as well.
Yeah,
it's the same head mold it looks like, but it's a different printing, which I believe you're correct. It is a reminiscent of that 70s look.
Because I know it's definitely different from his suit that came in the original castle
correct.
set.
That's
very 90s,
Yeah, because I'm looking at it right now, and I have the minifigure next to me. The minifigure in the castle set is the yellow bow tie, the golden bow tie, and the one in this set is the red bow tie, which again harkens back to that 70s Mickey look.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty great. I know they've been doing more Mickey sets for like the little kids with like the junior sets. So I don't know if that head is from that series, but I like the exclusivity of that set, and still the big castle has its own exclusive version of Mickey. So that's pretty great. I wouldn't mind if over time we even got a mid-scale version of the park like this, maybe a mini Pirates of the Caribbean with Jack Sparrow or another pirate, or even Red, and then Country Bear Hall with a minifigure of Big Al. That'd be fun, wouldn't it?
No, I think that'd be super fun. I think this is probably a more affordable and lower barrier of entry for a lot of Disney Parks guests to get into, or Disney Parks fan to get into Lego versus like
absolutely
the kind of commitment of like the almost I think it's like almost 4,000 pieces in the castle.
Yeah, well that and this is like 10% of the price too, isn't it? I think the castle is like $350, or is it that just $250? I don't know.
It's $350.
But So, and this is only supposed to be $35, which is cool because I thought it was just going to be a gift with purchase. Like you have to spend so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That was my. I got so excited because I saw it was the actual get a purchase or a set you could purchase versus a gift with purchase, because that was the rumor initially, was this would be a gift with purchase, which a set like this I thought would be at least a $200 purchase minimum. So I was like freaking out. Like,
can you imagine?
I really don't feel like buying mini sets right now.
Yeah.
We've had this conversation privately. But
Yeah.
I was like, well, I've been wanting the UCS gunship. Maybe then I would buy that.
And that's been its own thing, but
that's
been a bunch of drama around that.
Yes,
but
it has
which
been.
I know we're heading the direction of a different podcast.
Yeah,
at this
exactly.
point. But I know a lot of people are excited about it. Looks like looks like a lot of fun. Maybe if I'm lucky enough to score one, I might do like a live stream.
That'll be fun.
Building it or something. So
I would say my only other gripe is I think it's cool they're doing a 70s Mickey, but I was hoping but also glad they did it this way, because I was thinking it's a 50th anniversary set, so I thought they would use the colors of the 50th castle on this.
Yeah.
As well as maybe like the iridescent Mickey costume that would be super exclusive to and very like in depth like Parks callback to like his current outfit for the anniversary.
They've been doing a lot of anniversary lines lately. I know, like over the past year or so, and they've been doing a lot of pearl gold figures. So even we could have even gotten a pearl gold Mickey. That would have been cool. Interesting.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I know next year there's a lot of talk about, because I think it's the 10th anniversary for their Marvel line. So there's going to be
DC as well.
Yeah, so there's a lot that a lot of rumors going around about a gold line of the Avengers or a gold line of the Justice League, things like that. But again, that's a different podcast.
And I'm excited because this is kind of a classic castle. So this is a castle that can be displayed even after the 50th, or so maybe it's just a kind of like Castle Prime is the approach of going with this.
That's a good point.
That's kind of how I'm viewing it. But also in other 50th news, this is, if you couldn't tell, this is a 50th podcast in a way. This is kind of our. I guess we could announce that our month of September is our 50th anniversary retrospective, but also in preparation for the 50th anniversary. But other news, we got rumors / leak as well that at McDonald's starting in October they'll be having a full line of Disney Fab 50 minus Orange Bird and Figment toys at the McDonald's
the ones
stores.
You'd want.
Exactly. So from what we've seen in the leaks is that they're going to be individual figures. I don't know if there's going to be any kind of play feature that we attach to these figures, but basically it's the figure plus I think a display card that you can have. So these are very much kind of really display pieces for little kids and also Disney adults. So Mason, what you've seen of these figures, do you plan on picking any of them up? Are you still jaded like myself from the Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway release and are not looking forward to dealing with McDonald's again? That's it. We can get that story as well. But do you plan on getting some of these figures?
I'm probably not. I'm not too interested. Yeah. I do remember. I think it was the year of 100, or the celebration of 100 Dreams, or whatever, for Walt's 100th birthday.
Yeah.
They did a very similar series to this, where it was just a stationary figure, like this or whatever, on a base, and that was it. And you collected. I think there were 100 of those. There's only 50 of these, I think, if I'm not wrong. And they're cool. And at the time there were figures that, I wanted. There was. I think there was a Peter Pan one, and there was a Maleficent one, and stuff like that, and that's cool. But it's it's a lot of, they just did a lot of the current marketable figures, and it's nothing that I'm really interested in. I'll be honest, I don't really care for the majority of the modern computer generated films. I don't, and I don't know if that's a weird bias or something, but I don't. There are characters I like. There are things I like. I like Tangled. I liked Wreck-It Ralph, the first one. But yeah. So regardless, I don't think I'm going to be picking these up. I just don't have I don't really have an interest. I did get some of the Runaway Railway figures, and those were cool. Those
those
were worth it because they, you know, they were about the parks. They were about the parks. These are just I feel like these are pushing more the movies than the parks. Like,
no, I totally agree. It seems like a line more geared towards the anniversary of the animation studio versus the actual parks. That's how I feel about it a little bit.
Yeah.
And like you said, I loved the Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway line. I'm very much a completionist in a way when it comes to collecting, and so I tried my hardest, but there was a whole snafu with they recalled them for a little bit,
yes,
so I never got all of them. The one that I'm really sad that I didn't get was the Tower of Terror. I got Dinosaur and the Expedition Everest. I got the first I think there was 10 of them, and I got the first 6 or 7.
Okay.
I ended up not getting the other few, like the Teacup and Tower of Terror and things like that. So I was sad I didn't get those. So with 50 of them and them not really being parks related, I have no desire. I'll probably go to McDonald's once or twice and just look at get a couple just to see what they're like. But I had I had a big I have a big issue with McDonald's after my experience with their staff while trying to get those Runaway Railway figures. They didn't really want to work with me and trade and things like that. Because I remember the days back when Revenge of the Sith came out. I went through and got all of the Star Wars toys from that release from Burger King. Actually,
yeah, it was Burger King at the time.
Yeah, I have all of those. My parents have them somewhere in a box in some closet. I very much was a big Happy Meal toy collector in my youth, but now it's just kind of gotten. There's, like I said, there's nothing special about these figures, so I'd rather just go spend some money on a Jim Shore than to get something like that. So, and they're not even gold. So if they were gold, maybe I might be a little more attracted to them. But
or iridescent. Don't forget the iridescent.
Or iridescent.
You know why? Because Disney doesn't want you to forget the iridescent.
That is true. That is true. So we talked about that, and then I thought we had another topic we were going to talk about in the intro.
Yes, you had mentioned something.
If we think about it, we'll talk about it. But I think those were the two big.
Yeah.
Things. Oh yes. Okay. One last thing. If you haven't seen all over your social media pages, they had the media day as well as some of the AP releases media days of what would you call it? Ride testing. Soft opening for certain groups of Remy, and I think the most notable thing for me is the preview of all the merch. I think this is some of the best merch we've seen for a ride opening in a while, in my opinion. One thing that I love the most is the chef's hat that at night you can see Remy running around with the hat, and then he pops up the top, as well as the new remote control rats you could put on your shoulder, like a evolution of the shoulder plush, where you could put them on your shoulder and then they can run around your body using a little remote control, which I think is pretty darn brilliant. So have you seen some of the reactions from the early opening of Remy, and do you have any thoughts about the merch?
I haven't seen any reactions as of yet. I didn't have time to catch that this weekend. However, I did see some of the merch. I have seen, some people wearing the rat and running around, and I've seen the hat. The hat is a standout. I definitely think that is gonna sell very well. But yeah, it's exciting, seeing this, and it's an exciting energy of, a big attraction opening again. We haven't had that really since what, Runaway Railway. Yeah. So, and that feels like forever ago because of COVID. So
yeah, exactly.
But it's a fun energy there, and I'm excited to see how it goes over once it opens to the public, and I'm obviously I'm excited to see how this launch goes, because this has been a very tumultuous time. So, I find it funny though. You said that they had AP merchandise,
They had AP previews. I don't think they might have AP merchandise. I haven't seen that yet.
Are they calling them APs still? Because I thought they would be IPs by now and credit passes. In which case, you're going to get the IPs. You can't keep the IPs out of Epcot now.
Nice
so,
joke.
unfortunately.
Nice joke. Yes. No, and just to wrap up the Remy talk, I personally think I love Remy. I think he fits in France. I think it's one of the IPs that really fits well.
Absolutely.
I really wish that they would have done what they did in Paris and had a Chef Remy's in the pavilion. I think I heard is one of the highlights of that whole kind of complex in Studios Park in Paris is that whole the ride plus the restaurant really kind of ties it all together. Where the ride on its own, from what I can tell and heard, is kind of underwhelming. I've seen some reactions. People like, "Oh, it's cute." No one's out running out like, "Oh, it blew my mind," and it's this groundbreaking attraction. It's just cute. It's a kids ride with a bunch of screens, and we talked about this at least last week, a couple weeks ago. That yes, I think there needs a kids ride, but this is just some screens and some oversized fruits and vegetables that you ride through. I'm not super impressed by it. I'm more impressed by Mickey and Minnie's than I am Remy, to be honest. And so, and that's why I'm focusing more on the merch. I think trying to be positive about the merch. I think the merch is great, and having that IP in France is a good thing. But the ride to me is, I don't say wasted space, but there's a lot of potential that they could have potentially improved that ride in Paris and done something special in Florida, in my opinion.
I think it's interesting. Not every ride's going to be Rise of the Resistance. I know that you know that. But I think I can respect the ride for what it is. Is it groundbreaking? No, it's a clone. It's a clone, and that has to be that. That can't avoid addressing that. But I do think, I think it. You just said it. Remy belongs there, and if this is a way of bringing some more attractions that fit to Epcot, especially the World Showcase, I'm open to it.
No, so am I, and like I said, we're about to be in the era of the clone, because we're getting Remy and then Tron, and then obviously Guardians is a new attraction, so I think it's a really positive thing. But
the Clone Wars has begun.
It is in a way the Clone Wars right now. That's really funny, and yeah, and like I said, I love that Remy's in France. I just watched it stay with my kids. It's a family favorite of ours. I've always been a big fan of Remy. I love to cook, things like that. So he loves
rats. He loves rats. People.
I love rats. So and kind of similar. I can't wait to get one of those little shoulder plushes, or I don't think they're even plush. I think they're just like hard plastic, but little rats run around me. I'm still trying to decide if I want Remy or a meal, but
it's going to be like the end of the Suicide Squad. The whole rat.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a really positive thing to have Remy there, but I really wish that the ride was a little bit better. I think there was a few more physical sets there. But any more thoughts on Remy before we officially intro the show?
No.
Okay. Well, in case you didn't know, you're listening to On the Hubgrass here. As always, we come at you once a week with our latest take on Disney parks, as well as looking back at the history of the parks. Especially this month, we're talking about the history of the parks and its great 50-year history. So make sure you tune in each and every week in the month of September for our 50th anniversary extravaganza, or iridescent extravaganza. As always, my co-host here is the illustrious Mason Betterly and myself, Matt Arterbury. We're going to be here to talk to you about our thoughts and opinions. And this week we have a really special show. It's going to be our take on the top 10 opening day attractions at the Magic Kingdom, the vacation capital of the world.
It's really remarkable. It's really remarkable.
It is.
How much... Well, first of all, that we're here, that we're finally approaching the 50th.
Oh, yes.
But it's, it's really interesting, because I never realized the full list until you sent it to me of everything that was their opening day.
True.
It's impressive, and yet it leaves a bit to be desired.
It definitely does. I think looking at that list, I was like, oh, like because we in my mind, I had a lot more attractions as opening day attractions.
Yeah.
But really, like October 1st, there was, I think, a total of
Do you want me to do the full
attractions. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So opening day, because there were a couple rides that opened later, like a week or two after. We'll get into that.
Yeah,
But
even
opening
a couple days.
day,
Yeah.
there was Cinderella's Golden Carousel, Country Bear Jamboree, the Diamond Horseshoe Review, that counts apparently, Dumbo the Flying Elephant, Frontierland Shooting Gallery, that also counts apparently, the Hall of Presidents, the Haunted Mansion, It's a Small World, Jungle Cruise, Mad Tea Party, Mickey Mouse Review, Mike Fink Keelboats, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, Skyway, Snow White's Adventures, Swiss Family Treehouse, Tropical Serenade, which is the Tiki Room the Grand Prix Raceway, and then the Walt Disney World Railroad. So, and then there were other rides that did open later on. Two notable ones that caught me off guard. Peter Pan's Flight wasn't there.
Yeah, I know you texted me about that. I was like, oh, you're right.
Yeah, I was
That
like,
wasn't
whoa.
on the list.
Yeah, so that opened 2 days later, actually. So I guess either, they had some finishing touches or there was some sort of thing the day of and where they couldn't do it. And then 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea opened 2 weeks later on the 14th, which was an early day staple, for the park. So that's really interesting.
Yeah. No, yeah, the list is fascinating. I think, obviously, there's some of those that we don't have anymore that I would definitely ride. If I was able to transport myself back to October 1st, 1971, I would jump on those right away. And I'm curious on how you approach this list, because I think we just said top 10. So how did you approach your top 10? And I'm just curious your methodology on that.
Well, I looked at everything. I did not exempt rides that I hadn't experienced.
Sure.
I was taking it from a face front of, this is what's here opening day, all of this is fair game, and also from the mindset of, I am attending here, I've never been to Disneyland, and this is my first time ever going to a Disney park. What's going to catch my attention? And, what do I think is the most interesting? So, I went down the line, because it did get hard. Excuse me. Wow. But because and honestly, it wasn't so much hard at the top 5. That was pretty easy.
Yeah, top 5 was very easy for me. I think we're probably the same number 1, but
yeah. But
the bottom gets interesting for me too.
Yeah. And I could definitely say, if we were counting Peter Pan's Flight and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, the list would be completely different. Than maybe the top 1, the list would be entirely different.
Yeah.
Or even for me, the top 2 probably would stay steady. But yeah, because some of these you can't experience anymore. So that's an added thing, and there's some interesting history surrounding some of these attractions that actually still stick around, or still are with us in some form to this day. We'll get into that later, but how did you approach this?
Yeah, for me, I was looking at it from the lens of, if I was in the 70s and what would I be attracted to. So that was one kind of criteria, and the other one was which rides had a long-lasting impact on the parks, its history, but also its origin and its relationship to Walt. Obviously, Walt wasn't there opening day, but his heart and his legacy is definitely found in some of these early attractions. So that was kind of how I approached it in terms of negotiating the relationship between, obviously, these attractions I have ridden to attractions that I would love to have ridden, to what their impact was on the park as a whole. So
And it's crazy because some of these we're thinking of as one way, the way they are, with the last time we rode them, be that our last trip or the last time it was open. But we also have to remember that it wasn't necessarily like that opening day. It went through revamps over the years, so there's a lot to consider.
Yeah. No, very much, very much. So I guess without further ado, do you want to do your number 10, and then we can kind of keep talking about our thought process. So what is your number 10?
Dumbo.
Attraction? Dumbo, okay.
Yeah, it's a classic. You start with the classic. Why not?
Very much a classic. Yeah, I think Dumbo is a great number 10 pick. It's in my top 10. It's obviously my top 10 too. I have it actually at my 9 spot, but
spoilers.
Yeah, spoiler a little bit. So my number 10 is the Mike Fink keelboats.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
and why is that? Why is that?
Yeah. I think it's such a cool idea. It's one of those attractions that I put on my list that I haven't ridden before, and it had sort of a shorter history in the parks.
That's very true.
They were seasonal for a long time. I think they officially ended in like 2001. Was it officially closed? I know that in the 70s is really kind of when it closed daily or 90s it closed daily operations and became seasonal until about 2001 when it finally ended. But I think there's very charming. I think obviously the riverboat is this great massive boat, but I think it's very charming and intimate to have this kind of very historical Davy Crockett inspired boat driving around the rivers of America, between Liberty Square to Frontierland. So I think it's just very quaint, and that like personal kind of it reminds you that the Disney parks had a very simpler time, in my opinion, because obviously the riverboat's this massive boat that can carry so many people, but it kind of gave you that feel of immersing yourself into that frontiery early America that the Imagineers were really going for in that area of the park.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, it's ironic that my number 10 is your number 9 and your number 10 is my number 9.
Oh, nice.
So that's funny. But yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you about the Mike Fink. Now, you know where the name Mike Fink comes from, right?
Well, it came from the Davy Crockett movie, correct?
Yes, I think he was one of the river pirates.
Shows, but yeah.
Yeah.
TV show, movie.
Yeah. There were like TV movies that they did. He was a partial friend, part-time enemy, like kind of a rivalry sort of thing there. But yeah, no, I agree. I agree 100% with you. It's so much more of a personal, intimate experience, and I love those rivers of America. I went on the riverboat on my last trip, and it's just such. It's worlds different from any other attraction, I feel, that you can do there, because it's just slowly going around and you're slowly experience. It's a very different experience, and I think along the river you still can see one of those keel boats docked either along at the cave. I think.
No, I think they still have one there, and the loading dock was right where, like, if you ever go to the extended queue from Mansion, that's where they originally loaded. So, it even has a Mansion touch to it, which is nice.
Yes, absolutely,
nice.
Absolutely. Interesting fun fact on the like the overhead narration as you're going on the riverboat. It says that the Mansion is built on top of an Indian burial ground.
Oh,
that's an interesting bit of possible storyline.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever caught that before. I personally have only ever ridden the riverboat a few times. Yeah. Because I think why the keelboats attract me so much is because I tend to go to the parks, like I said, I talked about, for like once a year or so, and so I'm there to get like things done. And the keel boats for me, and maybe I should go on the river boat myself again, is it kind of forces you to slow down for a second and just kind of take in the beauty of the park, the energy of the park. Where if you don't, then you just kind of pass by the scenic vistas and views of Magic Kingdom. So I think that was a really great way. We're kind of skipping over Dumbo a little bit.
Because there's so much more to say about Mike Fink.
No, I agree, and I think a lot of our listeners have not heard of Mike Fink before in those keel boats. So I think it's important for us to talk about them for sure. But Dumbo is kind of the icon of the park in a way, or one of those big icons. A classic movie becoming an attraction, and you get to ascend above the park and kind of really get some really neat views, but also pilot your own Dumbo. And I think Disney World's version, I forget if Disney World opened up with 2 sets of Dumbo spinners at the opening day, but now it's even more special in Disney World because there's 2 of them. But back then I think it was just a really great kind of clone to bring back over from Disneyland.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So opening day there was only the one, but obviously, it was like for a while it was like the iconic thing in all of the commercials. It was like do the Dumbo.
It still is. I think it still is in a way.
Yeah, I feel like it's sort of faded a little bit, but there was at that time it was like right next to the Carousel, and it was it was set kind of where the wall of New Fantasyland is now. I think if I remember correctly, but it's crazy how much that has changed and how much of a staple that attraction is
definitely
to the parks.
So what is your number 8?
It's a Small World. Yeah, how about you?
So I'm going to do a quick spoiler alert here real quick. I omitted. I did not include Small World in my list. I'm going to be honest.
No, why is that? Why is that?
I get it's. So again, if this was a Disneyland discussion, I would include it because it's part of the history of the parks being built. That's how Walt first kind of tested the waters with attractions, and so I get that one's very iconic to me. Our Small World is just a clone,
small potatoes,
and it kind of annoys me, to be honest. I'm be honest.
No, that's fair.
And I think there's some really great rides on this list and attractions I think deserve to be here. Even over, like I said, I think I enjoy Dumbo more than I do Small World, to be honest. I know it's a long attraction, and it's
you're
one of those
completely
kind of
fair there.
Yeah. So my number 8 is Snow White's Adventure.
Really?
Yeah. I think it's. Are you surprised it's on my list or that it's this low?
You'll find out.
Okay.
You'll find out.
I think it's a classic dark ride. It's a classic attraction. I'm sad to see it go. And yeah, I think we'll talk about it later a little more, so I don't want to take too much time about my thoughts on Snow White. I'm not super attached to it, to be honest.
Okay.
But I think it's still in the canon of great dark rides and the ability to portray that story. That's such an iconic story. It's iconic to the Walt Disney Company because it is the first full-length animated movie. So to be able to translate that into a ride is, I think, still the forerunner to a lot of great dark rides. I think it's kind of one of the proto dark rides. Obviously, Disneyland had many great dark rides before this was built, but I think it's still iconic in that way.
Yeah, I think your feelings of the iconicity of it is sort of the same thing that drove me with Small World. I'm not a huge Small World fan. I did not ride it on my last trip. I did not ride it. I don't think I rode it on the trip before. But I did this. It's the same thing with Dumbo. Am I probably going to ride both of those, you know, in, you know, the next couple of trips when I might have, you know, have a little one going, hey, yeah, probably,
Yeah,
but
of course.
you know, they've never really, Small World's never really done a lot for me. I appreciate it. Of course, it's a landmark, for the company, for the, you know, designed by Mary Blair, and for that I respect it, and I think it deserves to be on this list, my list. Yeah. I understand that you know, it's not for it.
No, yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. So do you want me to reveal my 7?
Yeah.
So go back and forth. So this is where it gets hard for me.
Yes.
I think I'm sad to put this one so low, but I think I have to. So my number 7 is Mickey Mouse Revue.
Okay.
It's a classic animatronic festival of all of your favorite characters, with Baloo, or not Baloo, but King Louie, and
I think Baloo did show up.
What was that?
I think Baloo did show up, though.
Baloo does show up. Okay, I know King Louie is on the drums, maybe, and Goofy is has a stand-up bass. The Mad Hatter, Mickey, Minnie, the 3 Caballeros are there. It's just a kind of festival of those classic Disney animated films all in one place. Unfortunately, had a shorter run than some of these attractions on this list, and then it went to Tokyo. I think those animatronics went to Tokyo in the 80s. So I think it's one of those great attractions that was a great way for guests to see Mickey and Minnie and all these characters that they loved, and playing some really great and fun orchestral versions of all their favorite Disney music. So
yeah, well, and the great thing is, you know, eventually we did get some of them back. You know, Jose, Panchito, and Donald are now in the Mexico Pavilion. So they have quite a great history, you know, it's their 50th anniversary too. So that's pretty great.
Very much true. Very much true. And this is kind of where my list begins to get into the history of the parks and how. And I was thinking about those 3 in particular, is that they are still in the parks. They're still with us in not the park they were firstly introduced in, but they're affecting the rest of the Disney parks. And I think that's really a great historical point. So,
absolutely. I kind of, and that honestly kind of makes me love that little tidbit more. That, you know, so that's pretty great. But yeah, for me, I think the hardest part of this list was probably 7 through 4, because that's where like 1, 2, 3, I had it pretty much like boom, boom, boom. Yes, this is definitely going to be it. But then 4 through 7 is where it gets a little muddy. So my number 7 is the Country Bear Jamboree.
Whoa!
Yeah, yeah. I'm not making any friends today, I don't think.
I'm shocked.
Yeah,
not only where I have them, but like just knowing you personally, I'm shocked that you have them this low.
I was really in a certain headspace when I made this list, and I still am, and I stand by these decisions.
That's fine.
But yeah, I think honestly, you know, the sit downs are a hard sell for me. The sit down shows are a hard sell for me, but you know, I do think it's great. I mean, this is all these attractions.
It's
really,
it's the top 10, so it's like
it's like these are the top 10, and these are all iconic. And there's a reason Country Bears is still going strong. You know, in Walt Disney World, to this day, is because you know they are so great. You have great characters. Do I think it's better than some of my other choices? Not necessarily, and that's a personal thing. I prefer the other things that I'll get to. More so than the country, you know, log cabin vibe and the Bears, you know. I love it, but these other things I do think I love a little bit more.
Yeah, I'll get to my defense of the Country Bears when we get to them, but on my list. But I can
If you
see
put
that.
it at one, I swear to God.
I didn't. Don't worry. Don't worry. So off of that poor choice, what is your number 6?
It is the Jungle Cruise. Good old stalwart Jungle Cruise.
Okay.
It is hammy. It is corny. And if I add another dish in there, we probably got a nice dinner. But, but you know, it definitely has staying power. Obviously, it was an opening day for Disneyland, and I know it's gone through a lot of changes recently, but it's a great attraction, and it's a fun time, and it is so. It is, I think, a little bit more personal. Like we were mentioning with the river boats or the keel boats. And, you know, it does transport you, I think, to the rivers of the world. I know opening day, there were a lot more different attractions along the rivers. There was, it was a different path and different things were going on there, that they've changed and updated through the years. But I just think it's a fun adventure and it's a good time.
Yeah. So I'm going to stick at Adventureland myself. And my number 6 is Tropical Serenade.
Fair.
I think, again, it's one of those things where it's a clone. We have the first edition in Adventureland and Disneyland, but I still think it's one of those things that holds up so well. It's part of the history of animatronics. Those birds were some of the first animatronics that Walt Disney Company produced, and to have that history that transported to Florida is it's so fun. And obviously now it's called the Tiki Room, but I think having the history and how it's transformed over the years, and bringing that really great sit down attraction into Adventureland and something else to do in Adventureland, I think it's a great place to relax and hear some really great classic Disney music, parks music. So
fair.
My number 5 is Mr. Toad. I wanted to put it a little higher, but the attractions above it, I think, are a little bit more important to me personally. But Toad is, again, one of those classic dark rides. I think, for me, I think the story is so fun. The characters are so memorable. I think the only thing that falls apart for me a little bit is the quality of the... I say the quality of the attraction, but it's so very much like plywood.
Pink, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's fair.
Plywood and all that. I think I would love to have seen Mr. Toad, instead of it being taken away from us, to be updated into modern dark rides. Yeah. And you might have a staunch opinion against that. I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
No. I have a fun story. This was so long ago, I don't remember the name. I'm pretty sure it was on like not Imgur. No, maybe it was, I don't know. Some apprentice, novice, Imagineer designed a complete revamp of the attraction, where it included closing that building and actually putting it on the land where the mine train is now.
Oh, okay.
And it had Toad Hall, it had the jail, and you would weave in and out outside onto track outside, and there would be scenes out there, and then you'd weave back into the mountain. I love that. It was incredible and would have been amazing. Nobody would have cared, probably, other than me. Sure. But I would have been 100% behind it.
I love that, because I think Mr. Toad lends itself more to family coaster than the dwarves do. I get the concept of it, but Toad is in that movie is always
It's
zipping
about
around.
speed.
And
It's about fun. Yeah. Exactly.
And again, it pains me to put him so low, but I think that's where he lies for me on this list.
Yeah, he lands where he lands.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think and I think the only reason we still have Toad in Disneyland is just by providence of geography. He is underneath Alice, so he's just safe for now. But
Yes.
but I hope, because it does feel like over the past decade or so they've been sequentially moving through and plussing up Disneyland, or excuse me, Fantasyland's attractions in Disneyland. So I hope that maybe they'll invest in that. I think the climax, the hell scene, is probably going to go the way of the dodo.
Probably.
Which, if it means getting a plussed up version of that ride with actual animatronics and maybe, better effects and more of a experience akin to the film, I'm for it. I don't have a problem with that.
No, yeah,
it's always been weird, so
yeah,
that you end up in hell.
Yeah, I agree, and I think one of the most charming parts of that whole attraction is the actual ride vehicle. It's one of those few ride vehicles that is not just a simple vessel to get you through the ride; it's part of the story. And I think that's why it's so special to me as well. Yeah. So, what is your number 5?
Oh, my number 5 is Tropical Serenade.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. It hits all the marks. I'm an Adventureland kind of guy. I love the kitschy 60s vibe of it. And sort of that weird, I don't know, that like, I don't know if that even makes any sense, but I'm sure somebody is like, that's what I get it.
It translated in my head, so don't worry.
Yeah. So, but I agree with all of your points for it. But I do think I enjoy it, if for no other reason more than Jungle Cruise, than just I don't have to go through that god awful queue that like you die in because it's just so stinking hot. Here I get air conditioning, so I'm for that.
So number 4 is for me is Jungle Cruise.
Okay.
I think we've talked about it a little bit already. I think for me it's whereas a lot of Disneyland attractions are kind of like the perfection of those, I think our version of Jungle Cruise is a little bit better. Obviously, also when it opened, it was kind of got through some of the kinks of how they did the narration and the skippering, because when it first opened, it was very much serious, where I think at the point of when Disney World got it, it was more lighthearted and what we see today. And I think I like our track layout a little bit more, for at least when I've seen of ride through. So I've obviously never been to Disneyland. I think our layout's a little bit better, and I think some of our scenes are a little bit more polished. Because there's more room. There's more room. I think it's also part of it as well. Takes up more of a footprint here in Disney World. So what is your number 4?
Mickey Mouse Review.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
So I will say the reason why is side note, I love that we have PhilharMagic now, because it feels like the proper evolution of this.
Sure,
but I just would have loved to be in there and experience the animatronics of all of these characters.
I agree.
I would have loved to have seen that. Because you don't really see any of them in audio animatronic form anymore, and so it's a bit of a bummer. So I just would have loved to have seen that.
As would I.
Yeah.
So my number. Is it my turn?
Yeah. Go.
Okay. My number 3, and I mentioned it earlier, is the Country Bear Jamboree.
Yes.
For me, it is. It's eerily special, because this is all hearsay and stories, but this is one of those stories I believe is that this was Walt's last laugh. He had this dream of having these comical bears and the work that they did prior to with Mark Davis and his whole crew, to hearing that days before his death, it was like one of the last like little bits of news he got, or at least kind of when he was doing his check around WDI, and that was one of the last people he met with was the Imagineers that were working on it. He laughed, and that to me is so special. It's kind of like Walt's ghost is living in that attraction a little bit when we all are enjoying it. But two, I think it's one of those great theater attractions where it's just nice, clean fun, and those bears are so iconic, and they were original to Disney World, so it's one of the few things on opening day that were original to Disney World, which are just really special as well. And just those bears and those songs, and I think will live on in the park's history, even though they might be pulled away from different parks. I really hope that Disney World always maintains their presence in some way, and especially in that attraction. So I think it's just, for me, it's the epitome of what Walt Disney World stands for, and again, it has that special Walt touch to it.
Amen.
So what is your number three? What is your number three?
Snow White.
Okay.
Snow White is, I don't know if it's something as I'm getting older or what, but Snow White hits hard for me as a film. And last time I watched it, I got to the end and I just wept. I don't know why, but but I don't know, something about the film hits really hard now. And I always loved that attraction. I loved the scariness of it. I loved the triumph of the ending, and I don't know, something about Snow White is very special to me.
Yeah.
So I've always been very heartbroken that it's gone. I cannot wait for the day where I get to kind of ride it again in California.
Yeah.
I love what they have done with it. It looks beautiful. I don't really have any major complaints. They kept enough in of like the scary stuff where it feels very complete and whole, and I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, no, and to me, Snow White's one of my favorite princesses. I think I'm very attached to that movie myself. It was like one of the first Disney movies I watched, and it makes sense that it was. And I looking at this list, I feel bad for not putting it higher. I just didn't really ride it a whole lot growing up, and really having much memories of the ride. I personally love Mine Train because I love those characters. I love the dwarves. There's like some of my favorite characters in the whole Disney canon, to be honest. If not in like my if I group them together, they're like in my top 5 for sure. So like I didn't rank that ride higher because I didn't have attachment to that ride. If I were looking at like it as like separate from the ride and just those characters, obviously a little bit higher for me, but the ride itself, that's where I put it. So number 2, I'm really interested to see. I think we might have the same top 2. Let's hear what your
absolutely not.
What your 2 is.
My number 2 is Mr. Toad.
Oh. I just realized you omitted, I think, one of the greatest attractions.
What did I omit?
Number 2 for me is Walt Disney World Railroad.
I could do without. We have been doing without for quite a while now. So
I know, but for me, it's so essential to the park's history is that railroad, because the whole reason Walt wanted to build a theme park was to basically have like his dream of having his big train set, and I think it's so essential. It's the kinetic energy around the whole park. It encompasses the whole park. I think it's vital to the DNA of a Walt Disney Park, in my opinion.
2 words: Motor Mania, bitch. I'm sorry. No, Mr. Toad is just, it's everything to.
No,
to,
I love Mr. Toad, but to not have him, not to have the railroad on your list at all blows my mind.
Yeah, I can't. I could tell you, I have probably ridden the railroad maybe 3 times in my life.
Oh, okay.
I just, I like knowing that it's there. It's like, let me put it this way. It's like, I don't know. I can't think of a good metaphor right now, but
yeah,
I like knowing it's there. It's good to hear it. But I never actively seek it out.
Okay.
You know,
it's I can't wait for the day that railroad reopens, and I personally am considering when they announce it that I'm gonna hop on a plane and go ride it. I think. You think I'm joking?
I will hop on a plane and ride it with you.
Oh, love it.
To make it up.
I just think it's so essential to the park's DNA. Personally, this is my list. You have your list.
Look, I know he Walt had a huge train hobby,
massive.
Yeah. No. But I don't know. It almost feels perfunctory now. Just with all the leaps and bounds, they're making. And yes, and I know how.
Stop insulting me. Let's move on.
No, I'm just honestly at this point, I'm just saying it to tick you off.
Okay.
I like seeing you ride no.
Now you know how to piss me off. Talk about Splash or talk about the railroad.
Why would I talk about Splash? Why would I do that to you? Come on. This one's a no-brainer.
Okay, number 1. Let's give the people what they want. We'll say it together.
All right.
1, 2,
Hall.
3.
Hall of Presidents.
Oh yes, Haunted Mansion. Yes.
Yeah, Haunted Mansion. No, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah, easily. I think it's for me. It's great that we have our own unique Haunted Mansion. I think it's so awesome that each Disney park that has a Haunted Mansion is their own unique mansion, and I think you have delved into that lore more than most. But I think it's just so it's everything you want from a Disney ride. It's a great score, great animatronics, great story, all those things you look to tick off on a Disney Parks ride, and it also has great capacity if you're kind of into that too. Everything about that ride is iconic and will always live on in the park's history.
Yeah, no, absolutely, you're absolutely right, and I would go so far as to say that I would say that until Disneyland had the addition of Hatbox Ghost, I would say that we had the superior mansion. I think the adage of the Hatbox Ghost just kind of pushes them just above us. But I think I prefer our architecture. I prefer our show building. I prefer the grounds that we go through in the queue.
I love our queue. Yeah.
Now I like that their queue is part of the portrait hall. I do like that. I respect that, but I like our setup. We do have a little bit more than them within the. We have the library. We have the now the endless stairways, but then it was the spider room. Yeah. Which there's this whole legend that there was a corpse, fake obviously, but there was a corpse in the spider webs very early on or at some point in the mansion's history. But that's sort of like the big mystery now that Hatbox has found his way home. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think it accomplished It is like the 1971 version of Rise of the Resistance. You know, technology-wise, it accomplished
for
much.
sure.
Yeah, it walked so that it could run, so that Rise could run.
No, I would agree with that. And I think talking about Disneyland versus Disney World, I think we have such deeper lore opportunities and like so many more characters represented, so many more of the ghosts represented in ours. And yes, I think Hatbox is probably the best haunt. I think that is true. They have the best haunt in their attraction, but I still think ours is slightly edges out Disneyland.
Yeah.
Just for the sheer fact that we have a few more show scenes. That it's not like we just like have show scenes for the sake of show scenes. They are very much points in storytelling and things like that. I think we have a little more story that's told in our mansion. And again, I've not ridden Disneyland. I think one thing that, in my opinion, docks it in the modern day is that half the year it's taken over by the crew from
Bingo.
Nightmare
Before Christmas.
Nightmare. I think that to me is a little bit of a travesty that half the year you have to watch. I think it's cute and a good idea in a way, but I think it's also detrimental to that ride. But I think it's because they have so many key holders at this point that people can ride it, and so it's not like they have a lot of out of town guests. But I would be PO'd if it was my first trip to Disneyland and I had to watch Jack Skellington versus the rest of the crew personally.
Well, and that's why we have it. We don't have it in Orlando is because we cater to a much wider international market, and they want it so that you know if it is your first time, you are experiencing the original, and there's and with good reason. So the mansion itself, the original mansion, opened 2 years prior. They had worked out the kinks, and they built a lot of the props and such at the same time. In duplicate.
Exactly.
And sometimes in triplicate, for backups as well. So, but they definitely had worked out all the kinks, and it was down to a science, and they could even expand off of it. When it came time to build in Florida, and I think they nailed it. I really do, and we're gonna go so much further than that soon. So deep.
We. Do you just want to tell the crew what they should look forward to October?
All right. Yeah, sure.
I think to softly tease it, our October is going to be a full-on mansion month. I think we're going full depth into the history of the mansion, all the mansions ranging from Disney World or Disneyland to Orlando, all the way now to the most modern version is Shanghai,
Hong Kong.
Hong Kong. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mystic Manor. Yes.
Yes. So, what we wanted to do was basically make this month, the month of September, build up to the 50th, because the month of October is actually going to be what we're calling the month of the mansion. So I'm very excited about this. We're trying to get some things set up. Those are all the details you're getting for now.
Yes.
But hopefully, it could be full of creaking doors and creaking floors, as Walt once said. We're very excited about that.
Very much so. Very excited.
Yeah.
We have some really special things planned, and I hope you all make sure you subscribe.
If it works.
Yeah. Subscribe to all of our make sure you follow us on all of our platforms. So just want to be in the loop with all of this, because it's gonna be a lot of fun. But I think now we have we have a fast pass to Haunted Mansion, so we should probably head that way.
Oh, we do. Okay.
We do.
All
yeah.
right.
Nice fast pass.
That's fun.
So we hope you all had a great time listening to us, and we hope to talk to you real soon on the Hubgrass.
See ya.
Hey folks, thanks for listening. If you want more Hubgrass in your life, you can find Matt separately at Matt Arterberry on TikTok, or on YouTube at Matt and Mary Kate. Or you can find me at Unofficial Disney CEO on TikTok. Of course, you can always find us together on our Instagram at OnTheHubGrassPod, where we post content regularly. If you like what we do and you want to help make our show better, please consider joining our Patreon. Until next time, remember, there's a great, big, beautiful podcast, and it's just a stream away. We'll see you on the Hubgrass, folks.